Hello everyone, Kelly Bear here. Welcome to my channel. Today I am with you for a February favourites and a couple of new things. I'm going to try and keep this one shorter than my usual videos. I managed to keep my last favourites for January sort of around 30-35 minutes. I'm going to try and do the same this time as well. I'll be talking about decks and books first, then I will go into other bits and bobs like YouTube, podcasts, TV, film, that kind of thing. So if you're only interested in the books and the decks, then I will try to remember to put chapters in so you can stick around. You can stay for that bit, and then if you want to bounce, that's fine. Well, it's fine, whatever you want to do. Obviously, I'm not the boss of you, but you know what I mean. But then at the end, I will be showing new things that I got this month, deck and books wise as well. So I'll try to put chapters in. So if you want to like miss the middle bit, that's cool. Like whatever you do, you. So February, the shortest month of the year, was it went really quick. It was my husband's birthday on the 28th. So this week I've had a couple of days off in the middle of the week because he took a couple of days off work, and we vegged out, and actually he took Valentine's Day and the day after Valentine's Day off work, the 14th and 15th as well. So we sort of vegged out and we watched the Lord of the Rings trilogy, the extended cuts. And then because he had taken his birthday and the day after off this week, we had another like weekend in the middle of the week, which we did the Hobbit trilogy. So we've done lots of Lord of the Ringsy things, and it's been really nostalgic for me with the Lord of the Rings, especially because that's older. And it was just weird watching them for the first time in about 17 or 18 years, or maybe 16, 17 years. A while. It's been a while, but I used to watch them a lot. And then I just didn't. I think it's because I had the DVD, and I think I lent the DVD, never lend them out, never lend DVDs. The amount of DVDs and books I've lent out and never got back, and then just never got back. And then I'm like, well, I'm not buying them again. So that was really fun and nostalgic, so that was a good thing. But it also meant that I like had 2 shorter weeks as well this month, which made the month go quicker, but also was a bit of a struggle with work wise trying to do like my work because I also had things that I had to do that weren't work but still had to do at weekends. So I've not been able to get as much done with my Etsy shop this month as I would have liked, but I'm hoping to pick up the pace this month, because it is Friday as a filming. It's Friday the 3rd. How is it the 3rd? Because Wednesday was the 1st, of course. Wow, we're already at the 3rd of the month. The 3rd of the 3rd month. Anyway, decks. I am going to be really boring and mention the same decks. I think pretty much the same decks that I mentioned last month, but I've had more of a play with them. And specifically, there were 3 decks that I have used in combination for like for my week ahead readings, and I am obsessed. I do have a video on how I've been working with these 3 decks together, because not only do they aesthetically they look quite pleasing together, but also sort of energetically or whatever, they sort of just jive really nicely together. They work really nicely together. So the tarot is like a tarot deck and oracle deck. No, tarot deck and 2 oracle decks together. So the tarot deck that I've been using like the most again is the Raven's Prophecy. I mean, I think I'm making up for lost time for the fact that I'd had to rebuy this deck after, you know, not being able to use it for so long. And clearly I had missed it, and I just keep reaching for it. I was reaching quite a bit for this and the Antique Anatomy, but I haven't really used the Antique Anatomy so much this month. But yeah, I don't know, I just keep being called to it, so I'm, you know, listening to that. This is amazing 7 of Wands. I just really like the interpretations. The book, I sort of, you know, I enjoy the book, but I don't agree with, you know, everything that's in it, but that's the same with most books. I will have my own interpretations as well, but it's always good to know what the artist's intention was, especially when it comes to imagery that deviates so much away from, you know, Smith-Waite symbolism, because this is still sort of rooted in Smith-Waite system. It just looks very, very different to that. So this deck, in combination with, so what I would do is ask an initial question for the week ahead with my Raven's Prophecy. Again, I will try to remember to link the video in the description box showing a demonstration of a week ahead reading and then some demo readings of how I just how this deck works. These decks work nicely together if you're interested in seeing them in action together. And then it's the Between the Worlds podcast. There is a Between the Worlds podcast, so it's throwing me off. Between the Worlds, it's got nothing. The podcast has nothing to do with Monica Badurski. It's a witchy tarot-y podcast. Between the Worlds, Oracle by Monica Badurski. I love the backs, and it's reversible as well. But it's fairly wee. A nice size deck, and what I do is I then ask a sort of a clarification or further information question that builds on the initial question, and there's no set question, it's whatever I want to know for that week. And then I pull 3 cards from this deck and sort of interpret it. It's still quite tricky because, again, the book is great, but some of the interpretations or meanings for the items, because this is a sort of a curio casting deck, are very sort of keyed into, it is now your time to develop your psychic development, and this is and it feels very sort of narrow in its scope for the meaning. But Monica Badurski does say, you know, if you come up with your own meanings, interpretations, or intuitive hits, by all means go with that. So, you know, that is what I have been doing, but for the most part I found this to be like really spot on. And then the third and final deck that I use in this sort of triple combo is the Anatomy of a Witch Oracle by Laura Tempest Zakroff. Oh my god, this morning I was putting my water on my altar that is part of my offerings, my daily offerings, and the number of times I've sort of spilt a little bit, but you know, it's not been too much of a problem. I spilt like a lot, and I saw it go onto the Raven because I have my tarot spread for the week laid out on my altar as well. So this water sort of spilled. It was more than I've spilt before, and it went onto the Raven's Prophecy tarot. It went onto some of the cards. Luckily that wiped off really quickly because of the lamination on it, but it did go on some of the the spread's still there, so those cards are still over there. But I quickly dried it and was like, oh god, hopefully it won't go all crinkly, not realizing that the pull that I had this week from this deck had actually, loads of water had seeped underneath it, and it's like gone right underneath a massive chunk of the top left edge of the card, and all the card and paper layers have started to peel apart, and it's warped. So I've currently got it pressed between some tissue paper and wax paper under a massive pile of my art books, my hardback art books, in the corner of my room to hopefully dry it out. And then I'm gonna once it's dried out, I'm going to have to glue it and press it again and hope that it doesn't completely, not that the card is still usable. I was like, no, it was going to happen eventually. The number of times that I've spilt a bit of water and I've just about missed my cards, it's because it's such a small surface area. I think I don't have anywhere else to lay my readings out. This is the thing, I don't have space for things. So anyway, that's just a little side quest about my clumsiness. I just wasn't watching what I was doing. But anyway, the third card that I pull is a card for encouragement and or support, which is a card. I usually use Oracle decks for this in a week ahead reading. I usually use it for encouragement and or support. So this is something that I usually do anyway, but sort of combining it with 2 decks rather than 1 was quite fun. And this deck I'm really, really enjoying. And I realised that I messed up a little bit because I love the artwork. I love Laura Tempest Zakroff's work. I really need to get the book that this sort of was spawned from, that birthed this deck. But what I hadn't realised, there's a bit at the bottom that says RX, and I thought it was RV. I don't know, my brain was like, that's the reverse meaning. But because I don't read it reversed, and I'm reading it for a positive intention, I had been ignoring that bit, not realising that that is the diagnosis bit. I was rereading the bit at the front earlier this week, and Laura Tempest Zakroff, explains what all the different positions are, but I just had completely forgotten that the fifth section is a prescription for the magical body. It's not a reversed meaning. So I've been missing out on a chunk of the diagnosis or the information. So I went back and read all the entries for all the previous cards that I'd pulled for my weekend readings just out of interest. So, but what I thought was quite cool and quite interesting was the week before last, this was my pull, full moon. And then, not this week, but the week before, I didn't do a full week ahead reading because I was really low energy and not feeling great. And I thought, well, I'll just pull one of these instead. And the card that came up was this one. This came up twice in a row, 2 weeks in a row for me, which I thought was interesting because I shuffled this deck really, really well. Like I side riffle because I can side riffle this without hurting my thumb because it's just easier because you don't have to like really bend it, you just sort of let it fall in on itself. And yeah, I overhand shuffled it, I split it, and I was shuffling it for a good while and the same card came up. It's always funny when that happens. So yeah. I read the diagnosis bit this week and was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. It was almost like you didn't pay attention to this card last week, so you're getting it again this week. That's literally how it felt. So I'll try and hold up just 3 of the cards together to give you like a feel of like the how the deck works in unison. Can you see what I mean? So I know that this deck is darker. It has the dark background and these two have the pale background. But because this one, can you see there's an orangey warm glow around here, and then you get the warm colours in this, so they sort of all tie together really, really nicely, especially these two. I mean, come on, if you wanted to just read with these two, they look phenomenal together. So that's my little, if you have these 3 decks, give them a go. I now want to play with some different pairings for March because I really want to just carry on reading with these 3, but my other decks are like, use us, like don't leave us behind, you know. So I don't want to give my other decks a fair go because, you know, I have a lot of them. But yeah, does anyone else tend to like fall into like a routine of like wanting to pull the same decks all the time, and it's almost like I get a bit too comfortable with them? This though, this deck is gonna, the Between the Worlds one, is gonna take a really long time to get the handle of it because there's a lot of cards and it's going to take a while before I end up pulling all of them, you know, with reading with it, and you know, trying to get a handle on the meanings. I don't know how long it's going to be before I really get the knack of what this deck means, but this is a lot easier for me to shuffle because it's small and it's really nice matte smooth cardstock. I love it, it feels really satisfying. So those are my like top 3 combo decks, and then the other one that I've been using is the sexy, sassy, sultry, yummy Tarocchi by Mr Friborg again. So yeah, they're the same decks. I'm going to try and use different decks in March, so when I do my faves it will be, you know, something different. I could try and come up with some new combos. But yeah, this deck, yum. I know I showed it before, but I just cannot with this. I'm just gonna show you some random cards. If you haven't seen this deck yet and you read with pip cards, it's Italian based, it's not Marseille, it's not French, from the French tradition, it's from the Italian tradition. It's like, I watched Tom Benjamin's walkthrough of this and it was really fun to see his excitement and thirstiness over this deck. But he said it's very memento mori, and I was like, yes, it is, isn't it? It's very memento mori. Showing some of the same cards from last time, my favourite cards of this. But it's so yummo. So yummo. The colours, the artwork, the just general sort of feeling. I'm still trying to search for a an oracle deck that really fits with this. I think that's why I've not used it for week ahead readings fully, because I like to combine, I like to at least have one tarot and one oracle, and none of my oracles that I have like really worked with this. One of them that I've been looking at, I think I mentioned it in the previous video, is the Oracle of the Roses. I think that might work. And then I saw another one which was what was it? Amor and Psyche, maybe? I don't know. That has more of a like a Greek or Roman look about it, but I feel like it could work, right? Because it's got that sexiness about it. So those were the decks that I was really into. And then the books are kind of the same because I finished them, right? They are the same books, but I finished the absolute monster that is New World Witchery. And I can confirm that this is 100% definitely a book that you want to read if you're into folk magic. Obviously, I'm in the UK, so I'm now looking to further explore folk magic. So it's fluff floating. Fluff, come off my tarot bag. I'm now exploring or looking to explore folklore closer to home, and folklore and folk magic closer to home. But obviously this does have some stuff that is based in the British Isles, because people, you know, went over to the New World and colonised it and took their traditions and folklore and magical practices with them. Obviously there's more going on there. There's a real mix of different cultures from different continents going on in here, and that's why I found it interesting, because there was a real mix and it was set up in a really fun and interesting way, and it is a book I will refer to over and over again, I can tell. I'm now looking at getting the Devil's Plantation, which is more sort of closer to my, like based more closer to my area. I can't seem to find any like London or sort of just the London and its environs type folk magic stuff. It's more like East Anglia and Essex and Kent and that kind of, or like the, you know, the Cornwall and Devon, and yeah, it's really difficult to find books, and then those books tend to be sort of small print runs from independent printers. But I know that is it Troy Books? Have some of the like Nigel Pennick and Gemma Gary and stuff like that, so I might have to spend some of my Christmas and birthday money on those. And I finished Mastering Magic by Matt Oren, who like commented on one of my Instagram posts this week, and I had a full like fangirl moment. But yeah, what can I say? I highly rate this book. It goes really nicely with its sister book, Psychic Witch. I don't agree with everything in it, and I have to say a lot of the things that I did sort of rubbed me up a bit were the some of the guest spots where people were providing or giving some spells for from their own tradition or their own practice, and you know, there was some that didn't jive with me, but that's fine, right? Because it will jive with someone, and it's still interesting to see how other people practice. This is coming at magic from a very specific point of view, and from a very specific model, and there are obviously other ways of approaching magic. So I would say if you do get Psychic Witch and or Mastering Magic, don't stop there. This is like the psychic side of things. There's other ways of approaching, I do think, that, but for what it is attempting to do, it does very, very well. And I am now looking forward to working my way through it. And actually, I've pulled out my Psychic Witch because I'm now gonna, like what I'm doing with Changeling in 6 Ways by Aidan Wachter, is now using them in tandem and dipping in and out of both of them, and I plan to do that with this and Psychic Witch. Because, you know, there are so many exercises in here, and so many, I think it's 93 exercises in Psychic Witch. The number is that number for a reason. That just doing them once isn't enough. I mean, I remember when I first started reading Psychic Witch and I was doing that counting back from 100 exercise, and I did it so many times because I kept I kept fluffing it, and I was so determined. So you start with a lower number and count backwards down to 0, and eventually I was like determined to be able to count down from 100 to 0 without any distractions or having to start again. But then once I had done it, it's like I need to be able to do it again. So like even just doing them once isn't enough, and there are exercises that I didn't do or that I skipped because I wasn't feeling it or whatever, so I feel like I want to go back into that one, and you know, you're supposed to work all the way through it, but you know, I'm a bit naughty and skipped lessons. But I know that I won't do all of the exercises in here. I think the psychic astral altar exercises in this are so much fun. I'm going to record those on my phone, and I think I said this in my last faves, and I'm going to work through those and dust off the old astral altar, because wow. So yeah, highly recommend both. Really enjoyed both, and I like both authors. I just think they have a good presence online. Corey Hutchison does the New World Witchery podcast with Lane, and then Matt Oren is just really good at sort of engaging with his audience, which not all, you know, authors don't have to be available to us. They don't owe us anything. But I just really enjoy that he really sort of gets stuck in over on Twitter and on Instagram, and you know, it's really nice. He's very active in promoting his work. He's really good at that. So those are the books. We are 20 minutes in. Woo! And I'm not crossing. Let me just cross off that. I've done that. I've talked about that. Oh, I'm also still rereading the Marseille Tarot Revealed by Yoav Bendov, and it's really funny because basically what I'm doing is I'm reading. I'm currently into the end of the Major Arcana section and rereading that. But so I'm reading 3 entries for 3 cards a day in the morning. And what's really cracking me up is rereading the notes that I had written in the margins in Biro, like bits that like annoyed me. It's a great book, don't get me wrong, but there were bits that, you know, talk about, you know, gender binaries and stuff like that, and I'm like, what the fuck, WTF, question mark, exclamation. Once I've finished rereading the book this month, because I'm over halfway through now, I will show that hopefully in my March faves, if it ended up being a fave again, and I'll show you some of the like irate bits in the margins that I read, because I was rereading and going, what was I PMSing when I first read this book? It's very funny. It was funny to me. So to continue on the like tarot tube, witch tube, we're going to go into tarot and witch tube channels, and then onto just general YouTube. So I mentioned her channel in last month's faves, but I'm going to mention it again, which is Sorsha Soaring. And that is because, well, she has put some lovely, interesting content up yet again, but also because she has a website now. Her website is up and running. She's got blog posts. I'm saving those to when I've got a bit of time to sit and read. I'm hopefully get some time this Sunday to watch a couple of videos that I've got aside to watch from friends, and a couple of blog posts to read. So Sorsha will go more in depth about what she's been talking about in her videos on her blog posts, but there's also the gallery of some of her artwork she's been painting or drawing. She uses coloured pencils, I believe, the Arcana, and her artwork is just chef's kiss. I'm really excited to see where this goes, so I will try to remember again to link Sorsha's channel and website below. Do go check it out. I want to give a shout out to Bibi at Pure Red Velvet, because just the intro alone to Bibi's channel it just makes me feel so calm and sexy all at the same time. Everything Bibi does is so scrumptious and yummy and I just really enjoy her videos. I love the way that she talks. I think she's younger than me, but she's we have lots of like similar interests and lots of similar what's the word, pop culture references. Like when she was in one of her videos, she went, oh, that's way harsh tie, and I was like, oh my god, this is a woman after my own heart, with the whole like clueless quotes. So I've been enjoying that, and particularly I watched her video last Friday, the romantic decks, and I was so excited and inspired that I cleared the decks of what I was doing and filmed a VR to, and it was a VR to, was it something waves tarot, I can't remember, but it was Bibi's video that I'd seen, so I did a response first, so I did a response, it was sort of in response to Bibi's video, but yeah, I was just all about that. Go check her out, again I will link down below. Logan at Lark and Legend, this spicy, salty, lovely being who always has the most yummo nail colors. Like he's always got, or they've always got really great nail color. It just always looks so good, puts me to shame. But Logan has, well, first of all, go check out the Lark and Legend channel because it's so good. But the Black Salt Tarot Kickstarter that Logan had created, this tarot deck which builds on the Black Salt and Pink Sugar Lenormand decks. The Kickstarter launched this week, so again I will link that down below, so check out Logan's channel and check out Logan's Kickstarter. And then finally, T over at Cosmic Creeper. I want to give T a shout out. I love T. She did a little sneak peek of her sort of altar room, workroom, witchy room, which was looking really lovely after painting that wallpaper that drove her bananas. But I just really enjoy everything that she puts out. She always has something very thoughtful and interesting and insightful to say as well, and says it in such a, I don't know, I just really, the whole aesthetic, first of all, of her channel is just yum, and very sort of dark and animally and natural, and I just love it. But I find her really soothing and calming to listen to, and yeah, always has interesting things to say. And I think you should go check her out. And she gives really good Instagram as well, and she takes such beautiful photos for her Instagram. So that's like the tarot tube. I just realized I haven't mentioned any witch tube. I'll try to do that next. I didn't actually watch a huge amount of YouTube this month. Well, last month I didn't watch a huge amount, no more than, way less than I have in the last few months. So I haven't been as active. I need to, reminds me, I think I've got some comments on some of my videos that I need to go and respond to. But yeah, I was very much more into podcasts and sort of TV shows, watching TV shows while I work this month, rather than watching YouTube. And then non-tarot or witch tube, I would say Carla Rockmore. I've been following for about a year. Her channel has really exploded. She is, like, people call her the real life Carrie Bradshaw. She gives really great fun fashion advice. She's a woman in her 50s. I think she's about 53, 54. And she gives fashion advice, and she's very fun, and she's been starting to include her daughter Ivy in a lot more of her videos as well, which is really nice. Her grown daughter, her daughter goes off to university, I think, in the school year and beginning, like in autumn this year. So but yeah, she just seems like a really cool and supportive mum. And then Watcher, the channel Watcher, which was created by Shayma Day, Ryan Bergara and Stephen Lim of BuzzFeed. And if you're thinking, why does Ryan Bergara and Shayma Day sound familiar? It's because they were the BuzzFeed Unsolved guys, and they started their own channel at the beginning of 2020. The timing could have been better, right? But they have loads of really funny things. They have Too Many Spirits, which is a hoot, Puppet History, which is just amazing. Go check it out. But especially this month, I really was enjoying their top 5 beatdown, because this season of top 5 beatdown was so much more unhinged and out of control than any other series, but so funny, like cry laughing funny. So again, I will link it down below. Podcasts, because I know you all like my podcast recs. I don't have any witchy or tarot podcast recs for this month. I was on a murder / supernatural mystery cryptid type vibe this month, and I'm listening to Morbid. Finally, I think I first heard about Morbid via Rachel Maxey, who had she had the screensaver or something, she had it on the background on her TV in her old house. This is how long ago it was. It was still during the pandemic, I think, the beginning of the pandemic. And she said, I've been listening to loads of episodes of Morbid. It's like a true crime podcast. And I was like, oh, Morbid, I must remember to check that out. But I have so many other podcasts that I listen to, and I found it much more difficult to listen to true crime over the last few years because everything else has been awful anyway. But I've been able to get back. I've been listening to All Killer No Filler. That's the only one that, because they also managed to keep it light without being disrespectful, if that makes sense, because they're both, Kiri and Rachel are professional comedians. But I'm really enjoying Morbid, and they have a Buffy the Vampire Slayer podcast called The Rewatcher, and I've listened to a couple of episodes of that. That's really fun. And then as another murder true crimes podcast I've been listening to is RedHanded, which is a UK one. And from what I know, I think RedHanded and All Killer No Filler are kind of like rivals, and actually one half of both of those podcasts live in my local area. And actually the guy Danny Robbins, who does the Battersea Poltergeist and the Uncanny podcasts, he's a local boy as well. So we've got a lot of true crime and paranormal podcasters in my local area, and I've seen a couple of them about. So it's kind of weird. I think actually one of my husband's friends knows Danny Robbins, because Danny Robbins had a podcast called Haunted, I believe. I think it was called Haunted, from a few years ago. And my husband said to me, oh, such and such said you should check out Haunted. It's their friend's podcast, and he lives near us, but it's all ghosty. You'll probably enjoy it. And I did, but there was only a finite number of episodes, and I listened to them all. And then, but now he's back with a whole host of stuff, and the 222 play that's showing in the West End, and had Lily Allen as the main actress, and Danny Robbins is doing very well for himself. But yeah, so it seems to be like a little podcast coterie going on in my local area, which is quite cool. Music, didn't really listen to any music this month, which is unlike me. I was so on the podcasts and the TV shows that I wasn't listening to music. So no music to recommend other than, what I would usually be listening to otherwise, which would be, Gunship and Calandra and Måneskin, which were the three that I mentioned last month, but I haven't listened to any. Films and TV, so as I said, Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit trilogies, proper trip down memory lane for the Lord of the Rings one especially, and then I very much enjoyed watching the Hobbit again, because Lee Pace as Thranduil is just such a sassy bitch, but also so... I was saying that, I did say to my husband when we were watching The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings franchise is really a franchise where brunette men really get to shine, right? There are so many, fine... I think it's the first film, first Lord of the Rings film, is the first film that I ever saw Carl Urban in as Éomer, and I was like, everyone was mooning over Aragorn, and I'm like, Éomer turns up, and I'm like, who is this? I love Carl Urban. He's done really well for himself. He's been in Lord of the Rings trilogy, Star Trek, he's done the Marvel Cinematic Universe, he's been in DC because he did Dread, and now he's in The Boys. Has he done Star Wars though? Is that the last one, or did he do any Star Wars franchise stuff? Can't remember. So pretty. I just love Carl Urban. But yeah, so that, and then me and my husband we binge watched, I rewatched with my husband at the beginning of this month, or was that at the end of last month? I can't remember, the Lockwood and Co. So I watched it twice in the space of a couple of weeks. Loved it, and my husband loved it as well. I just wanted to get him into it, so I'm very excited. They're filming season 2 right now. I don't know what I'm doing with this. But then we like needed something to watch the following weekend, so we binge watched Heartstopper and hadn't realised that it came out like last April or May. I'm like, have I been sitting on this in my watch list for that long? I think it was because all my friends were like, have you watched Heartstopper yet? You'll love it. It's like so good. And I'm like, I'll get right. But as soon as someone says, you have to watch this, I'm like, no, I don't. So it took me a long time to get around to watching it. But I loved Heartstopper so much. There was lots of crying from both me and my husband. We were obsessed. Like, it's just so nice to see stories about queer people, by queer people, and queer joy. This is why I enjoy like Schitt's Creek as well. And like, there's no, like, I really enjoy Our Flag Means Death for the like pure queer joy of it. So yeah, Heartstopper, and then The Legends of Vox Machina season 2. Yes, even better than season 1. I know the storyline. I've watched campaign 1. I have like 5 episodes of campaign 2 left, and I have 1 episode of campaign 3. I'm just behind by 1 episode, so I'm hardcore into the Critical Role stuff. Although I still haven't watched the Calamity like mini. What was it, like a 4-shot or 5-shot? I can't remember. I haven't watched that. And then so that was an animated series that's on Prime. And then Agretsuko or Agretsuko, they say it in English, but I think it's Agretsuko. I don't know, but I've always said Agretsuko, and then she was calling herself Agretsuko in the show in the last few episodes that I watched, and I was like, oh, I've been saying that wrong maybe. But I just love that show. And Matt Mercer of Critical Role turns up as one of the characters. He started this character showing up. I'm like, I know that voice anywhere, because it's Matt mostly using kind of his own voice. And yeah, I was right. I had to Google it straight away. I paused it and my husband was like, that does, I'm like, yeah, that's Matt Mercer, and I was right. And then finally, I've restarted my rewatch of the X-Files, because I got like a little ways into season 3 and then I like fell off the wagon, and then I started in earnest this week. So the X-Files is a real trip down memory lane with like the Legends of Lord of the Rings and the X-Files. And I did rewatch the first episode of Buffy this week for the first time in a while, but I'm like, I was like, oh, actually, do I want to do a Buffy rewatch and a X-Files rewatch at the same time? That might be a bit much, so then I stopped that. Wow, we're already at 36 minutes. This is longer than the last one. Right, so that's the shows, and then I'm going to give you some Instagram accounts to follow, because I didn't do that last time, but I do enjoy some good Instagram. At Silver Rocks, again, I will post these down below in the description box. He is a drag king / drag queen / fashion designer / absolute ADHD infused chaos goblin, and I love him. I've mentioned him before in some of my videos, but he's so much fun and he gives great reels. Go check him out. Focused on Infinity was a account that I found out about maybe 2 weeks ago via, I think it was Auntie Kay, Cresta of Auntie Kay's Tarot. She reshared one of their Focused on Infinity's posts, and I was instantly hooked in and went in and followed them. They are they're an activist. They are really interesting and focused in, but also they've got like goth vibes going on, and they're really fucking funny as well. Like, and I really enjoy their content, so I would check Focused on Infinity. And then Caylee Cresta is someone that I found out via a friend of mine last year, and I've been following her probably for about 6 to 8 months, and she talks about feminism, and she basically does stitches. So I think she's mostly on TikTok, but she shares them on Instagram for folks that aren't on TikTok. But basically, you get all those like dude bros and incels and fucking awful edgelord type guys posting videos on TikTok about what a woman should behave like and what isn't attractive in a woman and blah blah blah. And she like then stitches that and then fucking lays into them with absolute facts, and it is a joy to watch. Oh, there's also, what's her name? There's the Canadian log splitting woman. This is purely on my account as a thirst thing. The woman is, and she has amazing arms, but for the love of me, I can't remember what her name is, but she's awesome, and I will try to remember. Wood chopper. I think she's called like the lesbian wood chopper or something, or the lesbian. Oh God, what is her? She's fun anyway. She's great, and she's got some guns on her. But that's more me just being thirsty and watching that. So, miscellaneous. This is going to be a long one. Lemon oil. Right. I usually have an oil that when I sit down to do my meditation and my offerings each day, I have an oil blend that I use. But what I was realizing, it's also the oil blend that I use if I'm in ritual, but I don't want to like have the ritual headspace when I'm doing offerings. And so I just grabbed one of my essential oils, which is lemon, just pure straight up lemon. And I thought something, because I wanted to pick something that is quite sharp and refreshing and perks you up. So I picked lemon. And actually before I don't use this on my skin, don't worry. If you're going to use it on your skin in a roller oil, put it in a carrier oil. But what I did was I just sniff it. So I sit down, I sniff it, take some deep breaths, and that's then when I then go into doing my offerings. And it's a nicer way to get me into a calm headspace without going into ritual headspace, if that makes sense. So now I've got two different scents. Actually, my oil blend for the ritual space is like pretty much gone, and I need to blend my own because that was blended by a friend. So what's also nice is that lemon is a scent that I'm more likely to encounter just out and about, or just in my day-to-day life if I'm cooking and I'm using, like today I'm going to be doing a salad for lunch and I'll be using fresh lemons for part of the recipe for my dressing. And it's a really good way of, because I associate it with getting calm and doing my offerings, it's a really nice way of dialing into that whenever I encounter it elsewhere, if that makes sense. So that's one of them. NYX Smooth Whip Lip, like just lip cream. I usually use like a really drying lip creams, the liquid lipsticks. The ones from my favorite ones are from Sugar Pill, but for some reason Sugar Pill again is no longer available to get anywhere in the UK. So all my favorite color lipsticks from my favorite formula is no longer going to be available. So I have to find a replacement. And that I think might be the NYX Lip Whip. Now this is like the packaging is like a really dark purple, but when I put it on my lips, it's more of a pinky purple. So it's nowhere, can you see? It's not the colour I thought it was. So it's a little different to what I would like, but I'm enjoying the formula. And actually, if you wipe the formula off, or if it wears away from eating or drinking, it actually leaves a really lovely pink tone underneath, because it's this colour stains my lips, so I get a good bit of wear. And actually I find it less drying than the usual liquid lipsticks that you would get from like Too Faced or even like KVD or what have you. I nearly called it Kat Von D, but they bought her out and she's no longer involved, which means I'm now able to purchase from them again, because Kat Von D is an awful trash human. Anyway, I didn't want to give her any money. And finally, my favourite miscellaneous thing, because I used it a little bit. Oh no! I need to put that back on. Why am I like this? I mean, I know why I'm like this, but why am I like this? So heavy-handed. I got this for Christmas. It was one of my Christmas presents from my mum. I did ask for it, and then I used it over the Christmas New Year's break, and a couple of times at the beginning of January. Then like forgot that I had it, even though it's right next to my yoga bolster. I don't know, but it is my acupressure mat, and I've been using it way more consistently I keep saying this month, thinking it's February still. It's not. It's March. It's 3 days into March. It's this like acupressure with the little pokey things. Now they were like, you should start off by wearing a little tank top or a t-shirt. That wasn't hardcore enough for me. I tried that the first few times and I wasn't getting enough of the benefit. So I will just lay on this either with like a what do you call it, like a crop top, one of those soft crop top bras on, or just tits out. And this is the one with the bolster. Oh my god, I don't know how this works, but this thing is fucking magic. I always recommended one of these, not specifically this one. I don't know if this one's any good. If this is something that I continue to use over the next couple of years, I would consider investing in a way more fancy one. This was just, I think, like a £20 set or £25 set. But oh my god, it feels like it, obviously it hurts when you first lay down, but not like in a really awful way. I have a high pain threshold anyway because I live with chronic pain, but this really helps with my back pain, my shoulder pain, my neck pain. I laid on my stomach with it and it really helped with my cramps. What the fuck, I stood on it for a short while and it really made my feet feel good. It's like magic. It's not magic, it's like physiology, right? But I don't know, and I know they like it's got strategically placed like plasticky bits, spiky bits. It's really hard to see with me showing it like this, but it's got really, I don't know if you can see, sharp little pokey pokes. Obviously these are not strategically placed because they're not being put in very specific parts of your body like you would with acupuncture. So it's a little bit more, you know, but it does the trick. But I was right, yeah, as I was saying, fuck me, stay on point. Sorry, Bobo, I didn't mean to make you jump, darling. Sorry, puppy, I woke you up by throwing that on there. Sorry. By a couple of friends that have fibromyalgia as well, and a couple of friends that also have endometriosis as well, because I have both. And yeah, so I'm like glad I listened to them and finally got asked for it for Christmas, and it's been great. Also though, I wanted to say that this lip colour of this is berry bed sheets, I meant to say, and I was like, this berry bed sheets makes it sound like you've started your period and you've woken up to what looks like a crime scene. Berry bed sheets, not a great name. I just wanted to add that. Anyway, acupressure mat, and finally, get on with it. The new things. So I got 2 new books that I have not read, and a tarot deck. And the tarot deck is Les Dinosaurs de Marseille by Anastasia Kashian. Oh my god, several people have already messaged me to say that they have bought this deck. I do have a walkthrough of it. I will try to remember to post it down below. The walkthrough is a fucking hot mess. I was off my tits on really strong painkillers and like all over the shop and was rambling. So it would either infuriate you or entertain you. I don't know. It's either one or the other. It's chalk or cheese, that video. But Saturnarium did a walkthrough, which is shorter and calmer and probably more reasonable. So I'll try to link that below. I would advise you watch that one rather than mine. But this deck, I used my Christmas and birthday money. This is just giving me life. I cannot. Oh my god, come on. I just cannot. It's a little confusing because of all the dinosaur names, but I'm sure I'll get the hang of it because I love it so much. I'm determined to, like, this is obviously the Queen of Fossils, which I think is the Queen of Wands. Like, the Velociraptor, but that's clearly the lover. You know, like, you can kind of tell. We've got the King of Crinoids, which would be the King of Cups. So, you know, it's different, but it's dealable. The cardstock is nice, the size is nice, the colours are great. I am obsessed with it. So yeah, I sorry, just looking at it, like that's clearly the Wheel of Fortune, you know what I mean? It's called Evolution. Like, how clever. If you like dinosaurs and you like Tarot de Marseille, buy it. It's really reasonably priced. It's a UK, it's a artist based in Wales. So if you are in the UK, this is a very accessible and very reasonably priced, and it's a Minchiati. So you have 96 cards in this. It's a real, and there's a really good guidebook. It's succinct and to the point, but it's from the artist, has written herself, and it's really good. So that, I can't wait to, this is going to be one of my March decks for sure. I've already had a little play with it. And then the 2 books I got 2000 tarot practice questions, because oh my god, I don't get to read for really anyone at the moment because, you know, I just don't get to see that many people. So I'm like, I need some practice questions because trying to come up with them myself drives me crazy, and I feel like I do a lot of the same stuff. Sometimes I use the same questions that like Marilyn from Tarot Clarity uses in her videos. I'll watch her video and then I'll be like, oh, and I'll pause it and I'll do my own because I'm a nerd. But this is just literally 2000 fucking questions. I will report back. I plan to use this for tarot practice in March. And the final book, or the second book that I got, again using my, these are Christmas and birthday presents again to me, see, is Glamour Magic conjuring style and grace to get what you want. And this was off of the back of me talking about using glamour and appearance in magic, but not just, but in like your day-to-day life. And it's also something that Sorsha Soaring had touched upon. So there's stuff floating in the ether at the moment. This is by Sophie St. Thomas, and I think it was one of the most recent, not the most recent, but one of the most recent episodes of Lux Occult podcast, I believe, was with Sophie St. Thomas, the sex and glamour magic one. Let me just double check for you guys. And then there is another older book from a few years ago by Deborah Castellano about glamour, called Glamour Magic, which I have been meaning to pick up since it was released, because I remember Deborah was doing the rounds on the podcast circuit with regards to promoting that book at the time. I think it was 2018, 2019 possibly. Now I need to find the Lux Occult. Where are you? Lux Astrata, Spirit Box, Lux Occult podcast. Well, let me just see. Yeah, so January the 13th. So it was not the most recent episode. There's been another 2 episodes since. Yeah, Sex, Glamour and Witchcraft with Sophie St. Thomas and Menu from Woodlands Show. Yeah, I recommend that episode of Lux Occult. I recommend Lux Occult podcast anyway, but I always do. I've mentioned that a number of times over the last few years. I just really enjoy it. Lux Occult, Lux Strata comes very much from like a chaos magic point of view, but she's so knowledgeable. She's really fun to listen to. She's really down to earth. And she gets really interesting guests on. So, okie dokie, folkies. Ugh, I shouldn't say that again. That was horrible. Okie dokie, folkies. Wow. So I have ticked off everything, I believe. I haven't missed anything off for a change. 50 minutes and 57 seconds so far. Wow. Okay, so that's that. I will try to remember to link everything in the description box. I will try to remember to put timestamps in so you can jump to the bits, but I'm saying this at the end, so it's a moot point. For those that want to know about, because I've had people messaging me asking me when my next shop drop will be available. It's probably going to be Sunday the 19th of March at 7 p.m. UK time, although I do still have 2 mystery love monsters available to buy in my shop. If you are looking for love monsters, I'm going to be doing little slime monsters, I'm hoping, if I have time to make some more for the March shop drop, and maybe 1 or 2 other things. We will see, but yeah, I'm working on that at the moment. I have a nice selection of pouches developing. These are all just standard and standard plus, so I need to do, so this is what I've been working on this week. I've been like sewing like a demon. Actually, some of these I did last Friday as well. But yeah, I'm getting there, folks. Woof. Okay, so that was my February favourites, things that tickled my pickle, and a couple of new things. But yeah, what do you think? Have you read Sophie St. Thomas's book? Have you used this book? Do you find it useful? Who else has read and enjoyed and used Mastering Magic or New World Witchery? And what do you think of the triple deck combo? I'm loving it. Do you do triple deck combos, or is 3 too many in a reading for you? Let me know your thoughts down below. I'm always interested to have a conversation. Let's get involved. I super appreciate you taking the time to watch and listen to me chat absolute whatever the shit comes out of my mouth whilst also trying to stay on track. But yeah, I hope that you are having a wonderful day. And if you are watching this when it goes up, I hope that you have a super duper weekend. I really appreciate you, and I will see you in the next one. Ciao.